This wasn't television anymore. This wasn't scripted drama. This was a reckoning. The gavel cracked down like a gunshot, and the courtroom froze. Silence filled the air, broken only by the soft echo of polished shoes pacing across the linoleum. Judge Rihanna Martinez peered over the rim of her glasses, her eyes locking onto one man, Kody Brown. Once, he was the charismatic patriarch of sister wives, ponytail swinging, smile dazzling, preaching unity, love and plural marriage to millions on TLC. But here in this room, under harsh fluorescent lights, there was no crew, no cameras, no staged family dinners. Just a man slumped in a chair, his tan fading, his bravado gone, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Kody Brown was on trial. Beside him sat his lawyer, Mitchell Wren, a man tailored for the part, silk-voiced and steel-spined. But not even an Ivy League polish could disguise the crushing weight bearing down on his client. Across the aisle, the women who had once called him husband sat shoulder to shoulder, Christine, Janelle, and Meri. No longer sister wives, but plaintiffs armed with papers and the scars of years gone by. Behind them, the press filled the gallery, People TMZ, Inside Edition. Even Netflix had someone quietly taking notes, sensing the makings of a docuseries goldmine. Then the judge's voice cut through the air. Mr. Brown, you are here today because this court has found credible complaints against you. These are not squabbles between exes. These are serious charges: financial impropriety, coercion, and emotional abuse. Kody shifted in his seat, his once golden hair now streaked with gray, his proud frame slouched under the weight of it all. The clerk's voice carried the case into the record. Christine Allred Brown, Janelle Shriver Brown, and Meri Barber Brown versus Kody Wynn Brown. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Christine rose first. Gone were the prairie dresses of the show. Instead, she stood in a sharp navy blazer, carrying the poise of a woman who had finally found her voice. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady, "I gave this man 27 years of my life. I bore his children. I sacrificed for the vision of family he sold us. But behind the cameras, the truth was different. He manipulated money. He isolated us. And while we drowned in debt, he funneled everything to his legally wedded wife." Kody flinched. Then Janelle stood. "I stayed for my children. I believed in our family. But what I didn't see was how Kody drained our joint accounts to fund only one lifestyle. Robin's I have proof." She raised a manila folder, thick with bank statements and contracts. The bailiff carried it forward, whispers flickering through the courtroom like fireflies. Meri didn't speak. She didn't have to. After years of rejection, her silent presence spoke louder than any words. At last, Kody's lawyer rose. "Your Honor, this is not a matter for the courts. This is a family dispute. Former partners, bitter and emotional, twisting grievances into accusations. We will show this case is built on spite, not substance." But Judge Martinez wasn't moved. Her brow arched. And yet, she said, "If these allegations hold, we are not talking about family drama. We are talking about fraud, hundreds of thousands of dollars in stolen money." Wren nodded and sat down. Kody tried to reclaim his charm, his voice rising. "Your Honor, with respect, we were a plural family. Finances were messy. The media twisted everything these women—" "Mr. Brown." The judge cut him off sharply. "I suggest you let your lawyer speak for you." And with that, the silence returned. The reckoning had only just begun. This wasn't a reunion show. This wasn't reality television. This was a federal courtroom. Kody's jaw dropped, but not a single word came out. Christine's attorney, Tara Dean, rose to her feet. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't theatrical. She was blunt, precise, and sharp as glass. Pacing the courtroom floor, she began her opening. We will show that Mr. Brown used the veil of religious pluralism as a weapon. Controlling these women, financially and emotionally, we will show how he concealed accounts, lied about investments, and drained communal money to fund a life of favoritism. She paused, letting the silence settle. Then, like a blade, she cut again. Reality television gave him a platform. Justice will give him a mirror. The room shifted. Another wave of whispers rose, the judge's gavel calling for order. Soon after, a recess was granted. Outside the chamber, reporters swarmed like bees. One leaned toward another and muttered, "This could be bigger than anything TLC ever produced." As Kody brushed past Christine in the corridor, he hissed under his breath, "You're making my family into a circus." Christine didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed locked on his. "No, Kody," she said coldly. "You did that. The day you crowned Robin Queen and left the rest of us as peasants." Outside, the flashbulbs popped like strobe lights. Reporters jammed microphones into every passing face. Christine waved them away. Janelle marched forward, silent and determined. But Meri stopped. "I stayed quiet for far too long," she told the cameras. "Silence is what got us here, not anymore." Inside, the gallery buzzed again, rumors flooding Twitter, Robin Brown testifying. And then the door opened. Gasps filled the room. She entered. No cameras, no makeup, no mascara streaks to be caught on TLC close-ups. Just Robin, plain black blouse, red-rimmed eyes, and tears that made the room still. Her presence shifted the air itself. Kody turned. Froze. The wife he had shielded above all others had just walked into the lion's den, and no one, not even him, knew which side she stood on. The judge returned. Order was restored, and the first witness was called. Christine. She walked to the stand, steady steps, shoulders squared. Raising her hand, she swore in. Not with fear, not with pity, but with a conviction that made the jury lean closer. "I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." The prosecutor smiled. The courtroom held its breath. This wasn't just the beginning of testimony. This was the beginning of the end of Kody Brown's kingdom. The truth was finally here, and it was hungry. Christine leaned forward on the stand, hands folded, voice sharp as steel. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said. "I came here for the truth, and the truth has teeth. It's been biting at me for years." The silence was absolute. Even the faint click of a reporter's pen felt intrusive. Christine turned toward Kody. He sat stiff, arms crossed, refusing to look at her. "We thought we were part of something greater," she said softly. "A family, a dream. But when the cameras turned off, the dream became a debt trap, and the puppet master pulled every string." Her lawyer rose. "Christine, can you explain to the court what you found after leaving Kody?" Christine nodded, her eyes steady on the jury. "When I left Flagstaff and went to Utah with my daughter, truly, I started digging through our old accounts. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wanted fairness. I wanted to know what I was responsible for." And with that, the war of secrets began. What Christine discovered wasn't just disappointing, it was devastating. Hidden in the accounts were withdrawals, more than $110,000, drained over 3 years. All of it funneled into Robin's world, her house, her furniture, her credit cards, even her boutique. The prosecutor approached the bailiff with a thick file. "Exhibit C," she declared, bank statements, transaction records, emails, proof stacked as high as the courtroom walls. Christine lowered her eyes to her hands, then lifted them to the jury. "When I asked Kody about it," he told me, "Robin's needs are the family's needs. We're one unit. But when my daughter needed surgery, I had to take out a personal loan just to pay the deductible." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Someone in the back shouted, Unbelievable! Kody's lawyer sprang up. We question the validity of these records. They're circumstantial. But the judge silenced him with a raised hand. Christine pressed on, her voice gaining strength. We were told we were all paid the same for the show. That's what we believed. But every check went through an LLC, controlled solely by Kody and Robin. When we asked questions, we were told, "Don't ruin the brand." Her attorney leaned forward. Christine, did you ever sign documents agreeing to those terms? No, she said firmly. Not one. We trusted Kody. That was our mistake. The judge nodded. Next witness. Janelle stood. Always the quiet one, the planner, the steady hand. But today, she looked like a storm finally ready to break, carrying a thick white binder. She walked to the stand, her jaw tight. She raised it high before the court. This, she said, slamming it down, is everything I could find tied to our shared investments, especially Coyote Pass. Kody stiffened in his chair. We were told the land would be shared equally, Janelle said, her voice trembling but strong. We were told it was for our future, but Kody registered the land in a trust under his control alone. When I asked him, he said, "We'll sort it later. Have faith." That was 4 years ago. She turned a page in the binder, sliding documents across to the judge. We paid the taxes, my money, Christine's money, even Meri's. But the only listed beneficiaries are him and Robin. The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Is this verified? Janelle nodded. I paid over $38,000 in taxes, and I never signed a deed. That's not plural family. That's fraud. Kody's attorney tried again. Your Honor, these documents are part of estate planning, incomplete, not finalized. The judge's voice cut sharp. Then why were the plaintiffs never notified? Why no partial titles? Silence. Janelle's voice rose. He told us we were equals, but when I couldn't cover rent in 2021, he told me to budget better. That same week, he wired $12,000 into Robin's home maintenance fund, and I only found out because my daughter saw the slip on his desk. Now, the courtroom wasn't just shocked, it was outraged. Jurors whispered. Reporters scribbled furiously. Even the bailiff shifted uncomfortably. And then it was Meri's turn. For years, she was painted as the one who stayed too long, the one who forgave, who endured, who clung to the dream. But the woman who walked to the stand now wasn't clinging. She was awake. I stayed longer than I should have, she admitted. That's on me. I believed in redemption. I believed love could be mended. But this isn't about love. This is about deception. Her eyes locked on Kody. You told me we were working on us. You told me the money was for therapy, but you spent it on a $5,000 necklace for Robin's birthday. Kody's attorney tried to object, but the judge waved him down. Let her speak. Meri's voice quivered, but it didn't falter. It wasn't just about the money, it was the manipulation. He promised each of us something he never intended to keep. The courtroom was silent again, a silence heavy with betrayal, with years of secrets finally clawing their way into the light. Meri's words lingered in the air like smoke. We were always next, she said. Next in line for help. Next in line for promises. But that next never came. Tears welled in her eyes, though she never let them fall. We weren't just neglected, we were abandoned. Financially ghosted by the man who vowed to protect us for life. Kody's face drained of color. The silence was suffocating. You could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead, the scrape of a shoe on the tile, even the thick weight of air pressing down on the room. Christine, Janelle, Meri, they returned to their seats together, a united wall Kody could no longer breach. The prosecutor rose, her voice slicing the silence. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you've just heard is not the chaos of a broken family. It is the pattern of calculated deception. Mr. Brown wasn't just a negligent husband, he was the CEO of an empire, built on emotional labor and unpaid devotion, and he ran that empire into the ground while he walked away richer than ever. She paused, letting the weight of it sink in, and the trail of money proves it. But the jury wasn't ready for what came next. No one was. Even Kody's lawyer looked blindsided when the bailiff announced the next witness. The gavel came down recess. This time, the sound wasn't just about order, it was the echo of a crumbling legacy. The women walked out, not shattered, but finally seen. And Kody, he sat alone. For the first time, his story had no co-stars, only witnesses. Then the air shifted. Robin Brown entered the courtroom. Every head turned. Every eye locked. Some gasped. Others leaned forward, breath held. Even the judge tilted her head, curious. Kody stiffened so abruptly, you could almost hear the crack in his spine. This was the woman he had favored, defended, and funneled money toward. The wife he had crowned as queen. The one he believed would stand by his side. But Robin didn't walk in with cameras, makeup, or heels. She didn't carry his smile. She walked in plain, bare, silent. And she didn't sit with Kody. She walked toward the stand. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Kody's mouth fell open. His lawyer shot up, stammering. "Objection, Your Honor. We were not informed, Mrs. Robin Brown would testify for the plaintiffs." The prosecutor didn't flinch. "She's not a plaintiff. She's not a hostile witness. She's here voluntarily." All eyes turned to Robin. Judge Martinez's brow arched. "Mrs. Brown, is that true?" Robin's voice was soft but unwavering. "Yes, Your Honor. I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent." The room froze. It was so still. You could hear the quiet click of a pen 3 rows back. Robin raised her hand, swore in. "The truth. The whole truth. Nothing but the truth." Kody's foot jittered under the table, bouncing with panic he could no longer disguise. The prosecutor stepped forward, her tone calm but deliberate. "Mrs. Brown, can you explain what your financial agreement was with Mr. Brown during the time in question?" Robin's voice cracked slightly. "We shared everything, or at least I thought we did. I believed we were one family. I didn't see the bank transfers at first. I thought everything was fair." She swallowed, eyes wet. "But when I asked Kody why Christine, Janelle, and Meri were struggling, while I wasn't, he told me, 'Don't ask questions. You're my legal wife, the law protects us.'" She shook her head slowly, looking down. "I trusted him." The prosecutor pressed gently. "Mrs. Brown, did you profit from the money taken from those accounts?" Robin lifted her eyes, trembling. And then she nodded. The courtroom gasped. "Yes," Robin admitted softly, "but I didn't know where it was coming from." Kody's fists slammed against the table. "That's a lie." The bailiff stepped forward, but Judge Martinez's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Mr. Brown, one more outburst and you will be removed." Kody fell back into his chair, pale and trembling. Robin lowered her gaze to her hands. "I didn't ask to be the favorite," she whispered. "When I tried to question it, he made me feel guilty. Every time one of the others raised a concern, he'd pull me aside and say, 'They're jealous. They want to ruin our peace.' And I believed him." The prosecutor leaned forward. "Mrs. Brown, did you know he was hiding money from you as well?" Robin nodded. "Eventually, yes. I found documents one night in a drawer. Records showing deposits into an account I'd never heard of. Brown Legacy Holdings, LLC. Money that wasn't shared with anyone, not even me." The room gasped in unison. Christine sat with her eyes closed. Janelle's fist clenched tight. Meri stared at the ground, her jaw set. Kody's body shook, visibly unraveling. "Why didn't you report it sooner?" The prosecutor pressed. Robin's voice cracked. "Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I exposed him, I'd lose everything. My home, my children's stability, The world already painted me as the villain, the one who won. But the truth is, we all lost. Slowly, she turned to Kody. Her voice sharpened. You made me believe I was chosen, but I was just a pawn to make them feel disposable. Then came the reveal that changed everything. The prosecutor lifted a document. This transfer, $17,800. Did you authorize it? Robin took the paper. Her face broke. Tears spilled. Number, that's not my signature. The courtroom froze. Side by side, the prosecutor displayed her signature card. The handwriting was wildly different. Your Honor, she said firmly. We move to enter this forged transaction into evidence. It appears Mr. Brown funneled money into his wife's account without her permission and may have forged documents to cover the trail. Judge Martinez's face hardened. Accepted market exhibit. Kody's attorney was sweating, tugging at his collar. Robin's voice trembled. That money wasn't for property taxes on Coyote Pass. I only found out when the county sent a late notice to my mailbox, and when I confronted him, he laughed. He said, "Don't worry, I paid it off in your name. They can't come after me now." The courtroom buzzed with shock. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, staring wide-eyed. Christine mouthed a single word under her breath, unbelievable. And then, just when it seemed the bombshells were done, Robin reached into her bag, a creased, worn letter. I wasn't going to bring this, she said, her voice heavy. But I can't hide it anymore. The bailiff carried it to the judge. Judge Martinez unfolded the paper. Her eyes scanned the page, then froze. Robin spoke, her voice breaking. That's a letter Kody wrote to his attorney in 2021. It outlines a plan to move all family property into my name, without their consent, and then pursue a silent divorce from the spiritual wives. The gallery erupted. Reporters shouted. Gasps crashed like waves against the walls. The judge slammed her gavel. Order, order! It took nearly a full minute for silence to return. When it did, Judge Martinez fixed her gaze on Kody. If this document is authenticated, Mr. Brown, it will not only demonstrate intent to deceive your family, it will demonstrate intent to deceive this court. You may be facing charges far beyond civil fraud. Robin's eyes filled again. I didn't want it to be true, she whispered, but now I can't unknow it. She stepped down from the stand, never once looking back at Kody. And Kody, he sat there like a man who had just watched his empire crumble from within. His trademark smile, the one that charmed millions on TLC, was gone. What remained was a hollow stare, the kind only seen when delusion finally collapses. Christine looked to Janelle. Janelle looked to Meri. For the first time in years, they weren't fractured. They were aligned. And Kody sat alone, exposed. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the silence, the only sound left after Robin's devastating truth. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat in the front row, like a holy trinity of vengeance. And behind them, the crowd rumbled low, like a storm ready to break. But Judge Martinez, she didn't recess, not yet. She wanted the weight of this moment, the rawness of it. The prosecutor leaned back, satisfied. But now it was Kody's side's turn. Defense may proceed, the judge snapped. Kody's attorney, Mitchell Rand, rose slowly from his chair. He smoothed the front of his designer blazer, though his hands betrayed him with a faint tremor. Clearing his throat, he stepped toward the jury box. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice quivering just enough to betray the confidence he was trying to wear. You've heard a blizzard of allegations today. Stories, complaints, accusations about money. But ask yourselves, what are we really putting on trial here? A man or a memory? The courtroom fell silent. This family, this whole lifestyle was never traditional. These weren't legal marriages bound by law. They were spiritual bonds held together by choice, and you all know this family. You've watched them, For 10 years, they lived on your television screens, but that's what it was. Television edited, directed, packaged, sold for drama. Kody leaned forward, nodding as his attorney pressed on. We argue these so-called financial misuses. They weren't crimes. They were creative direction, contractual complications, and yes, television drama. Gasps rippled across the gallery. Christine's jaw clenched. Janelle's eyes narrowed. The prosecutor shot up. Are you telling us Mr. Brown's financial choices were scripted? Wren arched an eyebrow, waving a thick packet in his hand. I'm saying they were molded by producers, by contracts, by a reality television machine desperate for chaos. And here's proof. Mr. Brown's production contract with TLC. He flipped through the pages dramatically. Paragraph 9C, ladies and gentlemen. It explicitly states that financial tension and interpersonal conflict could be proposed storylines. Kody Brown had the final word on family representation and conflict resolution. The drama wasn't an accident, it was baked into the deal. The room stirred with disbelief. Rand faced the jury now, voice rising with theatrical precision. How many times did you watch those family meetings and think, this feels staged? How many times did you ask yourself, is this real? That's because it wasn't, at least not completely. Judge Martinez narrowed her eyes. Mr. Rand, are you suggesting these accounting records are fabricated? Rand flinched, then shook his head quickly. No, Your Honor. We acknowledge the transactions, but we contend they were made within a communal, entertainment-driven financial pool, not a traditional household. Kody Brown wasn't embezzling. He was following a storyline. Playing a role? That was it. Christine had heard enough. She shot to her feet, her voice cut through the air. A character arc. I was crammed in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 kids while he bought Robin brand new furniture sets. The courtroom erupted. The judge slammed her gavel furiously. Mrs. Brown, sit down. Christine sat, but the damage was already done. The words lingered like smoke. Rand steadied himself, his performance faltering but not broken. He pointed back to Kody. My client is not a thief. He is not a con artist. He is a father of 18, a husband who made mistakes. Yes, but he is also a public figure, crushed under the weight of 4 marriages, 18 children, a television contract, and relentless public scrutiny. Who among us could manage that without cracks? He is human, not a monster. The gallery buzzed, disbelief swirling through the room, like static. And now, Rand said, regaining his rhythm, we call our witness, Miss Stephanie Klain, senior producer of Sister Wives, seasons 5 through 12. All eyes turned as a woman stepped forward, late 40s, sharp features, tight spirals of curls framing her face, thick glasses, a consultant's badge pinned neatly to her blazer. She raised her hand, swore in, and then met the judge's eyes with a strange mix of guilt and resolve. Miss Klain, Rand began, can you explain your role on the show? Her voice was steady. I assisted in crafting storylines, oversaw family shooting schedules, worked with legal on contracts, and yes, we often pitched scenes to maximize emotional engagement. Were they scripted? Rand asked. She hesitated. Technically, no, but let's just say strongly suggested. The air in the courtroom thickened. Producers knew what sold, she added quietly, and just like that, the trial shifted again. Jealousy, drama, splintered bonds, money disputes, all the things that made great television, but devastating reality. Rand pressed the producer. She nodded. Yes, Kody knew. He approved it. He wrote it. We often called him the showrunner. Gasps shot through the room. On cross. The prosecutor moved in, sharp as a blade. Did you ever recommend he funnel money toward one wife over the others? The producer faltered. Number, that was never our purpose. We filmed. We shaped stories. But those choices, the money, that was his. Silence spread across the courtroom. Rand folded his papers and sank into his chair, his case thinning before his eyes. Judge Martinez turned, her voice low but firm. Mr. Brown, stand. Kody rose, unsteady. The judge locked eyes with him. You've told this court your actions were theater, that your family was a cast, that pain was manufactured for ratings. But here's the thing. Mr. Brown, bank statements don't get edited, wire transfers aren't scripted, and pain is real. She turned to the jury, and that is what we've been given today. But before the moment could settle, the bailiff hurried to the bench. He leaned in, whispered something that made Judge Martinez's brow lift. She nodded. We have a last-minute witness request, she announced, from one of the Brown children. The courtroom froze, the doors opened, and in walked Leon Brown. Meri gasped. Kody's mouth fell open. Leon moved with quiet confidence, black blazer, no notes, no lawyer, just determination. I'd like to speak, they said. Neither side objected. The judge motioned forward. Leon was sworn in, then turned to the courtroom. A hush settled like a heavy shroud. I was raised in this family, Leon began. We were taught principles, love, unity, faith. But what I learned was control. Kody fidgeted, shifting in his seat. My father used his authority as a husband, and as a public figure we were told, don't speak against the family, don't question Dad, don't ask where the money goes. They fixed their eyes on Kody. You said this was about God, about family, but it was always about you. The jury leaned in, stunned. Leon's voice sharpened. We weren't children to you. We were PR tools. Props viewers saw a wholesome story, but behind the cameras, we were too scared to ask for shoes or counseling or even your time, because the answer was always, Robin needs it more. Meri's eyes filled with tears. Leon pressed on, steady and relentless. I saw my mother abandoned. I saw Christine belittled. I saw Janelle carry more than anyone should. And I saw you, Dad. Hide behind God. Hide behind television contracts while we were left in the wreckage. You didn't just disappoint them as a husband. You disappointed us as a father. When Leon finally sat, the air was so thick, it felt like no one could breathe. Judge Martinez's face was unreadable, but something had shifted, something irreversible. Kody lowered himself into his chair, slow, defeated. Even his lawyer avoided his eyes. For the first time, he stood alone, no one left to defend him. Final judgment was near. The courtroom, once buzzing with whispers and gasps, fell into a chilling hush. No cameras, no producers feeding lines. Just silence, and a truth that cut sharper than glass. By the defendant's table sat Kody Brown, not the polished patriarch America had watched on television, not the man who built his myth across a decade of episodes. That figure had vanished long ago. What remained was only a man, bare, pale, unrecognizable Christine, Janelle, Meri. Their testimonies had seared the courtroom. Robin's reluctant confession had sealed the coffin, and Leon's words, they hadn't just shattered Kody's case, they shattered the illusion of family he'd crafted for years now. Judgment Day had come. Judge Reina Martinez swept into the room, her black robe trailing like a shadow. A clerk stepped forward, handing her a sealed envelope. The verdict. Kody blinked slowly, chest rising in shallow breaths. Christine leaned toward Janelle, whispering something only she could hear. Meri sat close, clutching a folded photograph, a family portrait from years ago, when the dream was still intact. The judge broke the seal, unfolded the paper, looked up. In the case of Christine Brown, Janelle Brown, and Meri Brown versus Kody Brown, this court finds the defendant liable in all respects. The room erupted. But Judge Martinez's voice cut through. Kody Brown, this court concludes that you knowingly and fraudulently used joint family funds for your own benefit. In addition, the gavel struck once more, the words from Judge Martinez sharp as glass. This court concludes that you acted under the guise of religion and television control, inflicting emotional harm, financial loss, and irreparable injury on the very people you claim to love. Kody's jaw tightened. His attorney's pen slipped from his fingers. Restitution totaling $873,000, the judge continued, to be divided equally among the plaintiffs. Full possession of Coyote Pass will be turned over to an independent trust, and you, Mr. Brown, are prohibited from managing any family finances without third-party supervision. Meri's breath caught. Janelle nodded with quiet strength. Christine sat stone-faced. But the blows weren't finished. Furthermore, Judge Martinez added, in light of evidence provided by Robin Brown, you may also face charges of forgery, document fraud, and tax evasion. The words landed like bricks. Kody eased himself back into his chair, a man watching the empire he'd built turn to dust. And then Christine stood. Your Honor, she said, calm and steady. Before sentencing is finalized, I'd like to speak. The judge gestured. Go on. Christine stepped forward, each heel striking the floor like a drumbeat of closure. We didn't come here to destroy a man, she began. We came here to restore our lives. Her eyes locked on Kody. You told us we weren't enough, that we didn't understand sacrifice. But the truth is, we sacrificed everything, our youth, our money, our faith. You used us as props, built your kingdom on our backs, and when it crumbled, you called it reality television. No, Kody, that was reality, and you ran from it. Kody swallowed hard. Still silent, Christine's voice cut deeper. I watched you gaslight Janelle over finances. I watched you make Meri beg for scraps of affection, and I carried the shame of raising children who saw their father give love. Like it was a prize to be earned. He doesn't need a prison to be punished. Your Honor, he needs to understand his throne has passed. His power is gone. His story is no longer his to tell. The jury leaned forward, spellbound. Christine's words softened. We don't seek revenge. We seek restitution. We seek closure. The courtroom broke into applause. The judge struck her gavel twice, but then allowed herself the faintest nod. Victim impact statement accepted and noted. The air was heavy. The dust of judgment seemed settled, but then the courtroom doors creaked open. A tall man in a gray suit strode in, clipboard under his arm. No nonsense on his face. Your Honor, he said, handing a folder to the clerk. Special Agent Thomas Keene, IRS Criminal Investigations Division. We've been monitoring these proceedings based on testimony and recently filed bank records. We now have grounds to open a federal probe into Mr. Brown's tax history over the past 7 years. The gasp that followed was electric. Christine's eyes widened. Janelle blinked in disbelief. Meri's mouth fell open. Robin buried her face in her hands. Judge Martinez lifted a brow. You believe criminal fraud was involved? Yes, Your Honor, Agent Keene replied. We believe Mr. Brown used family-based LLCs to launder production income through personal accounts. Some opened in his children's names without their knowledge. Kody's face went white. His attorney rose, then collapsed back, words gone. The judge brought down her gavel, voice ironclad. As a result of this evidence, I am freezing all assets tied to Brown Legacy Holdings until further investigation, Mr. Brown. You are now under federal review. Court is adjourned. The final strike of the gavel echoed like a death knell. And, in that instant, Kody Brown, the man who once juggled 4 wives, 18 children, and a television dynasty, lost it all. Outside, reporters swarmed like vultures, cameras flashed, microphones shoved forward, but Christine, Janelle, and Meri didn't stop to speak. They walked out together. No longer co-stars, no longer rivals, survivors. Christine leaned toward Janelle, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's over." Janelle smiled softly. "Number, it's just beginning." Behind them, Robin slipped away quietly, covering her face. No protector, no shield, no golden ticket. Only the bright, unforgiving light of truth. And Kody, escorted out the side door by federal agents, no cameras, no applause, no music to soften the fall, just silence, and the whispers of women who had finally found their voices. Justice hadn't come with fireworks. It came with paperwork, with testimony, with courage. Kody Brown's story was never about polygamy, or fame, or scandal. It was about power. And how, in the end, it slipped away.